By a show of hands, have any of you ever been in a relationship and there are tensions you do not necessarily know how to approach? Hi, I'm Harris Baxter, and for my research project, I will be discussing dialectical strategies for managing tensions within a relationship. I will discuss the importance of confronting issues within relationships using one of multiple ways, but ultimately avoiding disorientation. Like many of you, I as well have struggled, even in some of my closest relationships, with communication. So I will go over some strategies, but I'm gonna mainly focus on one, which is reaffirmation. I will then go over how reaffirmation was applied in a study evaluating self-forgiveness, and explain what I learned from the study and how I can use this strategy to better a personal or an interpersonal relationship of mine. So some strategies I'd like to just go over. I'll just pick a few. There's reframing, which is basically when you take a problem with you and another person and you reshape the problem in a sense. You reframe your mindset and use that to maybe better yourself. Or there's selection strategy. Instead of trying to navigate separate problems, you kind of focus on the more relevant one at hand. But the main one I'm going to focus on is reaffirmation, and that's the dialectical strategy in which you kind of choose to acknowledge that there's an issue going on, and you choose to accept it instead of letting it threaten the relationship. But overall, these methods are important in that you want to avoid resulting to disorientation, which is not confronting the problem at all and just becoming too overwhelmed and thus kind of giving up on the relationship. Anyway, so for the article I'll be using, it's called No Genuine Self-Forgiveness Without Accepting Responsibility. Value reaffirmation as key to maintaining positive self-regard. This study was designed to evaluate the process of self-forgiveness while distinguishing between pseudo-forgiveness, which comes from denying responsibility of the endeavor at hand. It's basically fake forgiveness by not taking responsibility. And then there's genuine self-forgiveness, which is achieved by taking accountability of whatever wrongdoing you committed. So the hypothesis is the value of reaffirmation would be the key ingredient of confession, causing the moderation effects. So in order to determine how to obtain genuine self-forgiveness, they set up this study in which they had 74 participants report a wrongdoing, and then they had them follow up on they followed up with those participants with 5 surveys they had them fill out, and these wrongdoings varied from unfollowing someone on a social media platform to actual domestic abuse. So they had a wide range. So the surveys asked for a description of the defense and who it was against, along with the people. They set up these ratings of the severity and of self-forgiveness, self-esteem, responsibility, acceptance, as well as reaffirmation and with the victim's wrongdoings. And they found from the results of the study, it confirmed their theoretical ideals that to achieve this genuine forgiveness, you need to apply reaffirmation of these violated values. By reaffirming these morals to yourself and the people you committed these wrongdoings to, you're able to accept the consequences of what happened while not taking away from your self-image. So the research showed basically once they reassured themselves and the people they share their relationships with of their moral conduct as well, and despite what they did wrong, they were able to restore this sense of morality. So the relationship that I want to apply this to is my mom. And although this study regards self-forgiveness, I think it can translate to interpersonal relationships as well. For instance, when we have topics we don't necessarily find an agreement on, we can acknowledge that and what we identify as wrong from right, and maybe we don't necessarily find a middle ground, but we choose not to let that specific problem threaten our relationship. In the sense, agreeing to disagreeing. Now I want to end this with There's many effective ways to process issues with a loved one. Reaffirmation is an effective one with itself, and another to communicate through these issues. Clearly communicating an issue at hand, I think, is very important to maintaining a relationship. Or agreeing to disagree, just to allow forgiveness. As I stated before, there is an abundance of techniques to navigate through a problem, but I think disorientation is the least effective way. Thank you for listening.